So, welcome to the show. This is where we're going to talk behind the scenes about the systems that keep healthcare running. I'm skilled in physical therapy services, rehab management, and AI acquisition. I've seen firsthand lots of time and energy lost to documentation, insurance rules, workflow inefficiencies, and my main mission is to connect the clinicians with the systems that that surround and support them, like insurance companies, electronic medical record companies, revenue cycle management, stuff like that. So today we have a seasoned therapist, leader, and in patient care, CEO and founder of Peterson Physical Therapy, Jeff Petersen. He's built one of Arizona's most established and respected outpatient therapy providers with multiple locations and nearly 40 years of clinical and managerial experience. So, welcome to the show, and I'm very excited to learn from you.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you, John.
You're doing okay
I'm
today?
doing well. I'm doing well. And as I recall, you're a hockey player, right?
No, no.
Okay, that was someone else. All right, my bad.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I used to do track and football,
Okay.
but high school.
All right, cool. And where are you located?
I'm in New Jersey.
Okay, good. Awesome.
Yep, you're in.
Arizona. It's a little rainy here today, which is rare.
Oh yeah, yeah. Me and my wife went there for our honeymoon, and we loved it.
Oh, cool.
We loved the nice dry heat. It was good.
Yeah, it's a nice place. I'm originally from Boston,
Boston, okay.
so I've been out here 40 years.
40 years.
Yep.
Yeah. So so you started physical therapy right when you got there?
I did. I graduated from the University of New England in Maine. It was the first year they had their physical therapy program. It was 1984. Then I moved out to Las Vegas for a year, and then I came to Arizona to study exercise science at ASU. That was when the field was emerging. The exercise science field was emerging. It originally started as exercise science was always in the PE department. So 40 years ago, they started doing research specifically on exercise physiology and exercise. Now it's its own department, exercise science.
You did that and outpatient or orthopedics?
Yes.
Sorry.
So I studied exercise science while I was working as a physical therapist, and then in 1991, I opened up my practice. So I've been in practice since 1991.
Yeah, yeah.
Doing
So 40 years. What initially drew you to the field? What were you? Has your passion evolved over the?
Yeah, that's a good question. What drew me to the field was I had a teacher who took a couple of us under his wing. He kept an eye on a couple of us miscreants. I wanted to be a roofer because the roofers you worked all summer outside. They were tan. You could drink all free beer on Fridays. Made $5 an hour. In the wintertime, they went down to Florida to work. I thought that was a great life. And he said to me, and I'll never forget. He said, "You really want to work a job. You don't want to work your back. You want to have a job where you work your brain because your back is going to give out faster than your brain."
Yeah.
And that just made sense to me.
Good advice.
Honestly, in 1984, PT was a really new profession. I had no idea what it was. And I just trusted this guy. And he introduced me to a guidance counselor who helped me fill out the applications. Lo and behold, I became a physical therapist. Nowadays, the young people who come into our job, who work with us and then go on to become physical therapists are much more goal-oriented. They've got a lot more going for them than I did back in 1979, 1980.
New back then. Yeah, yeah.
So
how long were you just practicing as a therapist?
I had been before what?
Until 1991?
Yes, before I started my own practice. Yes, so that was 6 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what drove you to start the practice? What was your vision?
If you've ever read the book The E-Myth Revisited, he talks about the entrepreneurial spasm. I was working hard and I realized, I could do this on my own. Again, it was more bravado than it was competence. And in the 40 years that I've run my practice, I think I have been promoted to my level of incompetence at least 3 times. And when you're the owner, you either quit or you get competent at where you're incompetent. I don't know if you've ever heard the expression. We all get promoted to our level of incompetence. And it was just It was the entrepreneurial spasm and bravado.
Yeah. So you're entrepreneurial by
Yeah, by nature. I dabbled in
yeah.
some freelance work when I was in high school, and I always wanted to work and make money. And yeah, I think that was
Yeah.
built into me.
So looking back, were there significant challenges back then in the earlier Peterson Physical Therapy years? And how did you overcome them and be so long-standing?
Yeah, early on in the profession, the margins were much greater. So we build out on a pegboard system. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a way to track accounts back in the day with pencil.
Yeah.
We kept a pencil calendar, and we didn't track the metrics as closely as we do now because, like I said, the margins were so much higher. Salaries were lower, rents were lower. I think our collections at the time have decreased 30-40% maybe from 1992, 3, 4, 5. I've got numbers going back there. So collections have decreased, and costs have increased. The cost of education has increased. Most PTs coming out of school have an average of $130,000 to $40,000 in debt from graduate school. And so early on, the challenges were just trying to figure out how to help the patient and how to be clinically competent. As the margins decreased, and Arizona has always been a hotbed for experiments in insurance industry because there's a lot of transient population. People come and go, and people coming in from out of state. So it's a nice place for the insurance companies to experiment. And so we've been through all sorts of experiments, capitated plans. Managed care wasn't even an issue. That was a big deal when managed care came in. We used to see people, and the insurance company would pay 90% of their bill within 2 weeks. Now, with electronic billing and collections, that has decreased, but there was a time that we were running 90, 120 days out because everything was paper and mail. That has decreased to about 30 to 45 days, thankfully, but the amount has decreased, and the amount of management required to get paid because of authorizations, reauthorizations, has increased. So our costs have increased, and yet our reimbursement has decreased. So that's the challenge today. Now, the positive side is people are more aware. 40 years later, people are a lot more aware of what physical therapy is.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was just people who, most of them were post-surgical.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, but now people understand. We see a lot. The other day, I had a 6-month-old and a 93-year-old in the office at the same time because people are aware of how we can help them. So the awareness is increasing. The other nice thing about the profession is we still haven't reached a peak of our the baby boomer generation. I'm kind of the tail end of it. Actually, my younger brother, who's a couple years younger, is the tail. I think 1965 is the tail end of it. So my generation is in its 60s and 70s, and those are the people who really need therapy. So as people become more aware and there's a greater population, then there is obviously a greater pool of customers.
Yeah, so you think the peak is coming for that?
Yeah, probably the next 15 years. It'll peak in about 15 years, I would guess.
Yeah.
So,
how has the continuous learning over the years influenced your approaches to clinically and from a business standpoint?
Yeah, that's a good question. So on the clinical side, when I first became a therapist, there were some political issues. One of them was physician-owned practices, and we kind of worked through that. And the other one was the idea of manipulation, what chiropractors do to the spine. There was a big dispute, particularly in Arizona, between the chiropractors and the therapist, who should be able to manipulate the spine.
Yeah.
So I studied for 5 years with a Norwegian physical therapist in Norway. They really emphasize manual therapy. They're the ones who do the manipulation, not chiropractors. So learning clinically, now the greatest thing about that was learning to get my hands on people and feel the difference in mobility. I do much less manipulation today now because I've learned that most people come in, they might have a tight spot in their spine, but most dysfunction comes from hypermobility where a joint's moving too much. And the soft tissue might be restricted, but the joint is not stable. And then about 15 years ago, I got into dry needling. And that's just another way to manipulate the tissue deep in where it inserts on a bone or in an area where you can't get to with your fingers. So that's always been helpful. What's interesting is my philosophy has been crystallized as I've learned, and it's also been simplified. Instead of looking for the magic bullet that's going to help someone get better, quote, better. Now, occasionally someone comes in and there's an issue and you can do some therapy and they're fine. Many of the people we see have chronic issues and they have repetitive issues that keep coming back. So educating the patient about stability and instability, educating the patient about posture. I've kind of come full circle to realize that's one of the most important stuff to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as far as the business, one of the things we started doing early on, and you see a lot of it in business now, is metrics, starting to track metrics. What are the leading indicators for how well we're doing? Now everybody knows the basics, that you want to collect more money than you spent. Well, that's the lagging indicator. At the end of the month, you look at the checkbook and say, okay, how did I do? So when I first started running my business, that's what it was. Okay, do we have money left over at the end of the month? Good, we can pay ourselves. What I've learned are if you use metrics as a way to identify activity, you can see how you're going to do in 2 months based upon the level of activity today. So I can look at some numbers, identify the activities that are happening, and with pretty good confidence know that, we're going to be within a certain percentage of growth, or we're going to be down a little bit in 2 months when we finally collect all the money from the visits we've done. So tracking metrics has been important. And then probably the most important thing is really understanding that life is a team sport. Developing a team, especially as I've gotten older, developing a team and coaching the team to really, the promise we have in our business is with unconditional positive regard, we will meet patients where they are and help them move forward. So the aim is to help everybody in our office understand that we're not healers. We're going to facilitate people coming in that are in pain and help them take one step. If you take one step, you can take 2 steps. Next thing you know, you're taking 10 steps.
Yeah.
So our job is to really get people to take the first step and then give them the confidence to keep moving. Because movement is the key.
And with that team, you're talking about your team. How many locations do you have?
Right now we have 4 locations.
4 locations. So to going and scaling to have 4 locations, how did you maintain that personalized
that's a good question. Because I've opened and closed 12 different offices. So early on, we would open an office, I would go get it started, and my thought was, well, if I stick someone in this job, stick someone in this position that I had developed, and they do what I do, we'll have the same amount of success. Well, it didn't work out that well. So what I realized is it's important to get the right, who is it? Was it Peter Drucker? Good to Great. Get the right people on the bus. Making sure that we're choosing people that literally have the same values in certain areas, that value patient care, but also value that there is a commitment to being productive. I tell my therapist, anyone can do a good job, can do a great job if you're seeing 1 patient every hour. Can you do a good job when you're seeing 2 patients in an hour? Can you do a good job when that patient is late and he's your 5:30 patient and you want to go home on a Friday night? Identifying people with the right values that have at least a basic skill set and are willing to learn. Having a teachable spirit. Having a teachable spirit is really important, and want to work as a team and understand that it is a team sport.
That's good. So beyond the clinical expertise, what are some critical elements that you focus to ensure that the business operates and grows? I mean, you talked about the metrics.
Yes.
So
I'll just tell you what we do here. So getting people to take each individual in our office who holds a post has 3 priorities, and those are the 3 things we focus on. So for the patient care coordinator, her priorities are making sure the information is collected efficiently and in a friendly manner and communicated to our billing staff, making sure the schedule is filled and making sure we collect all of the copays that were due.
Yeah.
Nowadays, everybody has a copay. Back in the day where insurance would cover 100% or 95% is just not, it's not there. And by contract, when we sign a contract with United Healthcare, we're obligated to collect the copay. So making sure that people are clear on what their priorities are, making sure that they're willing to take responsibility for those priorities, and then we use the metrics to measure the activity and the success of those priorities. Are they doing it at a frequency that's going to help us be successful? But it starts with the individual, the teammate, the team member, and then it leads to being able to communicate with them clearly what your priorities are, what are the tasks necessary to achieve those priorities, and then these measurements are like the vital signs of a person: blood pressure, heart rate, BMI. So we can look at those to get a quick idea of how healthy we are. And if there's an area, then we can drill down a little deeper and say, okay, what's lacking here? It's not uncommon. People have lives, and you see one metric dipping, and then you go and you start to talk to the person responsible for that, and you find out, they're having a tough time at home and stuff is going on. So now we're able to support that person to get them back into some measure of productivity.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's nice.
it's like vital signs. We use our metrics like vital signs of our business.
How is your flow of patients? And I have a follow-up question to that.
Yeah. So we look at the schedule for each therapist. We identify, okay, if you're working for 8 hours a day, we have some varied schedules. Some people work 4 10s. Some people work longer days and then a couple shorter days. We have so many patients per hour, so we want to schedule 2 to 3 patients per hour, depending upon the patient. If it's a Medicare, we want to give them more time. If it's a new patient, so we have an established kind of. It's not really. I guess you'd call it an expectation. I call them targets for a number of visits per week, to say, okay, this is what you can handle with the right support, with the right flow. And then we just monitor that. And most of the time we don't necessarily always hit the targets, but if we're it's like our percent arrivals. We monitor how many people come in who are supposed to come in. Well, not 100% of people are going to come in. 70% of the people will just show up because the doctor told them to. That 30% are really want to see the value in, is this going to help me? And so that's one of the ways we measure quality too, to make sure that the flow is we don't want to have a therapist sitting there with no patients on the book, because that's when we start to lose money.
Do you have a lot of does your sales, or you have like a sales team that gets your patients?
Yeah, we have a marketing person, and so she organizes all of our marketing activities, and she works with, everybody in our practice is marketing the practice. So it's the old adage, everybody's in sales. Not that they're trying to, we certainly do not do the hard sell, but part of sales is to help people appreciate the value in what we're doing with them and for them.
Educating.
And the other part, the most important part, is listening. Listening, I think it was Scott Peck said, listening is the greatest act of love one person can do to another. To truly just listen to what their concerns are. I can't tell you how many patients come in and they just want to be heard, because the message they have received is, stop complaining about your pain and get on with it. And that's never a good message.
Yeah, no, that's sad.
So listening, that's a great, we have different personalities, different aptitudes in our practice, but the one fundamental thing is people will listen to the patients, understand their concerns, and do the best we can to move through that, and being sensitive to that. So you get a group of people doing that, and patients come back.
Yeah. So you have a good relationship with like your referral physicians? And
yeah, what's interesting is over the years, I've had several of my top referral sources either leave the state. I remember one, she was responsible for 35% of our referrals, and she got in a car accident, couldn't do surgery anymore. I remember I had one, he was probably 25% of our referrals, and he got arrested for drug use. So initially it was about finding that one or two that would really drive the business. What I've learned over the years is we want to have a little bit of depth, a few deep pools from which will refer to us because they trust us and know us. And then we want to have a broad referral source where it's There's many different referral sources sending to us. And we also want patients asking their doctors, hey, can I, and this happens more and more over the years, people saying, oh, I need therapy, I know where I want to go. So patient referrals is really helps drive our practice.
Yeah, I'm sure. So from being that, I think Peterson Physical Therapy has a more holistic approach. That's what I.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it that way. It sounds kind of cliche. When I was in college, that was kind of the big term. But yeah, the holistic approach is really about the patient and what they need, not necessarily a protocol, and kind of listening to them. And we do refer out at times. People come to see us because they're in pain. Pain is a universal experience. No one gets out alive. And what happens is we all have this narrative in which we live, and then suddenly pain enters the picture and the story completely changes.
Yeah.
Now, some people handle that change really well, some people not so well. So a lot of it is guiding people through handling their pain and confronting that in a way that is healthy and allows them to move forward.
So, and part of that, so patient education is pretty important.
It's every visit we're trying to educate them on something. And if you talk to any teacher, people learn differently. Some people learn auditorily, some people learn visually, some people learn kinesthetically, where they have to move and they have to feel it.
Do you have any systems for that, for educating patients?
Yeah, we have systems for home exercises. We have systems for instruction. We don't do a lot of written instruction. It's more one-on-one verbal, and it's a lot of hey, so for example, we just got an in-service yesterday from one of our clinicians who uses a laser pointer to educate people about their joint position. So there's a term, joint position error. So if I turn my head and then I turn back, am I turning back to the same spot? Do I know where that spot is without looking? And so that's one way of giving biofeedback. We have used EMG in the past. That kind of fell out of favor. But the laser pointer is one simple way to give kinesthetic feedback to increase the awareness of where your body is in space.
Yeah.
Handling pain, the first step is to know yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What resources do you have? Where is your body in space? It's amazing to me. Do you have kids?
2 kids.
Yeah. How old are they?
2.5. I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Okay, so the 6-year-old. So I asked the 6-year-old to do a squat.
Yeah.
Is it a boy or a girl?
Boy.
And just watch him. And he won't know where his body is in space. He won't know where his feet are. And there are adults that are like that. They do not know where their bodies are in space. And we work with people that have hypermobilities. There's a condition called Ehlers-Danlos, which is a congenital, and there's several different variations of it. But one of the characteristics is they have joint hypermobility. Their joints just move too much. Their collagen doesn't firmly set. So part of the feedback that you get to your brain on where your body is in space is to be able to the tension on that collagen sends a message to your brain that tells you where your elbow is in space. You could close your eyes right now. Your hand is on your chin. You know where your elbow is in space. Well, some people kind of lose that. So watch your 6-year-old try to do a squat. So part of the education is helping people learn to know where they are in space so they can move freely without stressing tissue.
And that's so much more fine-tuned as opposed to where I work. I've worked mainly with geriatric population. So some people with strokes and stuff, for example, you'll see those deficits to a very hard extreme.
Oh, absolutely.
So they just don't have that at all.
Yes.
Versus what you're looking at is like a 6-year-old who doesn't, or for adults who don't have that body awareness as tuned in.
Yeah, and we do lose that as we age anyway. We lose fast twitch fibers first. We lose a certain amount of balance. There's a lot of things. And then you add to it a major insult to the brain. And now sometimes, and we do this too, sometimes you have to start from the beginning. Ironically, it's, life is full circle. You start worrying about eating, pooping, peeing, and sleeping, with your 2-year-old. Okay, the whole schedule is around those basic functions of life. And then as we get older, we go back to, okay, can we get up and get a glass of water? I prepare my own meals. Can I get to the bathroom? Can I sleep through the night? So sometimes what's necessary, that next step really is just learning basic functions. And that's not uncommon with older people.
Yeah. So you've witnessed immense technology changes in the healthcare field.
Yeah.
What emerging technologies besides the traditional documentation systems have you seen most potential? Do you see the most potential for impacting care?
Yeah, that's good. I think so when I started, it was handwritten notes. We wrote all of our notes. Then we started with transcription, where I would dictate to into a tape machine, and the transcriptionist would type them up. Like I said, we were on a pegboard. Then electronic medical records. I think one of the weakest areas of technology is the human tech interface. I remember when we first went computerized, we had a messaging system. I would get on my computer, and instead of having a message on our EMR system, I would have a yellow sticky note on my computer screen. Like, okay, we have a system that we're paying for. Why are we not using them? Well, it's because the person was not used to doing that. It's the same thing with me. Every time the computer updates, I'm like, okay, I just learned how to use the old system.
Yeah.
But I think my hope is AI. There are a lot of systems that are promoting the AI in the use of documentation and billing and collections. Yeah. The challenge I've seen is the interface between our billing system and our collection system, and the ability to generate reports around the metrics. So I'm hopeful that that's going to get more specific and more clean. Yeah. I'm also hopeful that it's going to be more voice activated and less sitting at the computer and typing. Yeah. So to be able to say, hey, computer, I'm going to see patient John Doe today. They've got a knee problem. Boom, it pulls up the knee evaluation form. I can do the evaluation, talk to the machine while I'm doing it, while I'm educating the patient. It's going to type up the note in a format that's understandable. I can say, okay, we're going to bill for this many units. It's going to send a bill to the system. All this, that in and of itself, there's a lot that goes on there that is really complex. Yeah. And then at some point I would be able to sit down and say, okay, computer, how many Blue Cross Blue Shield patients did I see this week? And how, on average, last year, what did we collect for a Blue Cross Blue Shield patient? Now, we can figure that stuff out today, but it takes a person sitting at the computer, going through at least 2 different systems, and really doing a lot of configuration to come up with that number.
And who typically will work on that? Like a director of rehab, or?
Yeah, no, we have, in our office, we have a clinical director that does all the clinical stuff. And then we have an admin team that our vice president of operations runs the admin team. And then we have 2, what we call collectors. So they're looking at the back end. We'll get claims that was sent back, and they'll correct those. They'll collect the money that we haven't seen. We have 2, what's called verification officers. They verify, okay, John's coming in for therapy. What does his insurance contract say they will pay for therapy? And now there is we do use an automated system where you hit one button and it says, okay, this is what this plan is for, but you'd be shocked at how many times it's incorrect. You'd be shocked that you call the insurance company and they can't give you a straight answer. Or you get 2 different answers depending upon who you talk to on the insurance company. No. And the reality of it is, have you read your health insurance policy? Do you know what it pays for physical therapy, for psychiatric care, for hospital? Yeah. We know the generalities. I got a $6,000 deductible and basically a copay. But the insurance companies have gotten really smart to build in all sorts of steps before they hand over any money for a claim. So at some point, my hope is that AI will be able to sift through all of that. My sense, you're too young to remember what a Betamax was, aren't you?
Betamax.
So back in the day, you had to watch TV when the show was on. You had to schedule your view.
Well, I knew that. Yeah,
and there were like 3 channels, and then you had the VHS, you had a couple local channels. Well, then they come out with, hey, there's a way you can actually record from your TV, and the Betamax was the first type, and then the VCR came out, and there was a little bit of a battle. And now beta has gone away. Well, so have VCRs, but
Yeah.
VCR kind of took over the market for, I don't know,
Yeah.
a decade. And then, of course, technology developed and it went away. But
Yeah.
my sense with AI is we're in that early stage of who's going to do what and what's going to be the best version of it.
Yeah.
And so
Definitely.
I'm excited to see what will happen. There's a lot of, I get a lot of emails and approaches with promises, but I'm treading lightly because whenever we make a change, even in like our billing system or our documentation system, again, you've got that technology human interface,
Yeah.
and it does create all sorts of upset and
Yeah.
things aren't going as well because not everyone just jumps on board and learns it.
There's a lot. Yeah. I know. Yeah. Especially, yeah, some of the older people I've worked with.
Totally.
It's hard to
I'm one
even
of them.
use computer. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you just being on here, you're a lot more than some of the people I've worked
Yeah.
with.
So
But
yeah, but it's true of, you say older, but it's even true of the
yeah,
40-year-olds, which I don't consider old, but
and some young people,
yeah,
you know.
they just, whenever there's change, it can be upsetting to people. And
Yeah.
so that's why I've learned the hard way, I not to be so impulsive about embracing a major change that's going to impact the entire team.
Yeah. I mean, it could do documentation AI. I mean, it could also do other administrative tasks.
Yeah, I mean, I could imagine someday, especially with telemedicine, that you log on and it's an AI doctor. I'm talking to you. You could be an AI doctor and say, "Okay, hey, how you doing?" and be real pleasant. I mean, Chat GPT will chat you up and say, "Oh, that's a great idea. I love that." And they listen to your symptoms. There'd be a way to take your vitals, and now
Yeah.
you're looking at a doctor that literally has the whole database
Yeah.
in their brain,
Yeah.
so to speak, and could prescribe your medicine without ever seeing a doctor.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would still like doctors and clinicians to be human,
Yes.
but I'm a big advocate more for the paperwork and the headache parts of being a
Yeah,
clinician,
absolutely.
that to automate those things that I think like documentation
I
and
mean, what's
some administrative work.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're designed to be in community.
Yeah.
I believe we're literally created to be in community with other people.
Mm.
And so that is the real risk of technology. But one of the things that's really
Yeah.
big in physical therapy right now is virtual assistants at the front desk, where you log on and there's an assistant that pops up on the screen, take you through their questions, and you register the patient. I could easily see at some point that doesn't have to be a real person. You've seen, what's her name, Lily,
Yeah.
what's the actress's name, Lily Norwood, who's completely AI. Yeah, someone created an AI actress, and you look at this person, and she's really cute, but she's not like intensely beautiful. There's a few not flaws, but there's stuff to make her look realistic. Completely AI. So where will it go? I don't know. One of the things that I do know is that what we do more than anything is to sit down and listen face to face, and then we put our hands on just about every single patient. Even if it's
Yeah.
just on their shoulder on the way out the door to say, "Hey, you did a good job today."
Yeah, get some
Yeah,
human.
we
Yeah.
need that. People will always need community and touch. Think about the old days of medicine. It was really in the realm of the community and religion. If you got sick, you went to the local healer, and then your family, and then everybody was there. They were either praying for you, giving you a poultice, giving you, whatever they saw that would try to help you, but it was community. It wasn't throughout history that medicine had become professionalized. That happened in the
Yeah.
early 1900s, where it became professional. Physical therapy really didn't become a profession until the early 70s. So there were restorative nurses. And so we've learned that, yeah, we need contact with patients, and patients need contact with the provider. And now I hope we don't go too far the other way.
I agree. Yeah, definitely. Well, if you could solve maybe the first problem with AI, what do you think you would go toward? The biggest source of.
I think so. Voice activation for one,
Yeah.
and the integration between systems, documentation,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
scheduling, documentation, billing, collections,
Yeah.
where it would be seamless.
What systems are you using
We
now?
use WebPT for their documentation, scheduling, and then WebPT billing system.
Oh yeah.
So there is some integration, but it is certainly not seamless.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think it could eventually bridge that gap
Yes.
between all of them.
Well, and then the other thing that would be really helpful, you're in the tech field, is let's say I wanted to change to be able to, so now I've got decades of data. Some of it's marketing data, email name, email lists, phone numbers, old, former patients,
Yeah.
billing records. And if we were to shift just to take all that data and put it on a new system, some of it gets lost, it's not formatted correctly, we can't access it in the way we want to. So when I say systems communicating, the integration of data from one system to another, I always laugh because I'm a big Star Trek fan. Remember the Star Trek, The Next Generation? Well, I
Yeah.
remember when it was, you don't even remember. See, I remember when that was new. You don't even remember when it was, to you, that's like, it's ancient. That's the 90s. I'm a modern man of the 90s. So, Geordie LaForge, he gets onto this alien spaceship that's been dead for 100 years. And within minutes, he's talking to the computer and, I'm like, I can't even get two of my systems to communicate with each other without calling the IT.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even then, it takes them 3 hours. At some point, that's my hope.
Well, as a respected veteran in the field,
Well, when
what's
you say respected, you mean respected? Yeah,
respected?
I'm teasing.
Hopefully respected,
Yes.
right? It sounds like it from New Jersey. What advice would you give to like an aspiring therapist who would want to open up their new clinic or something?
Yeah, it's funny because I've started moving into coaching a little bit.
Okay.
I think that it's the same advice I give everybody. One, know yourself. Do you want to do you want to build a business or do you want to be a clinician? I mean, it's perfectly acceptable to be a clinician that sees people one-on-one, that collects cash for your services. I mean,
Yeah.
I could see me doing that more as I get older, but that's different from building a business of physical therapy. So that's the first
Yeah.
thing, is to know your aptitude, know your desire. What is it? The second one is really control yourself. Then find out what it is you want to do, and then stick to that and focus on the next two steps. Okay, what do I need to do if I want to be a single clinician or I want to build a business? What do I need to
Yeah.
do? What do I need to learn? Who do I need to talk to? And then within all of that, making sure you're always giving back to somebody else, even when you're early in your business. That's got to be part of a life strategy, a business strategy. Is we know who we are and who we aren't. I think it was Peter Drucker in the Good to Great talks about the hedgehog concept. Know what you do well, and do that. Then if you're going to build a business, making sure that you bring on a team that has your same values and you get them in the right seats on the bus, and then making sure you have a vision that is greater than yourselves, that's serving somebody other than your own self-interest.
Yeah.
And then what does that mean for the specifics of the business? So that would be really where I would start. And that's where we start with my job as an employer really is to help my employees find their next job. Now, I hope it's with me. And I hope we grow enough that, okay,
But
they're
growth.
taking
Yeah.
leadership and they're running the office. But oftentimes it is, and it's in a different situation, and that's always rewarding for me.
Wow. What does success look like for you, not just in Peterson Physical Therapy, but as the like profession as a whole? What would something specific?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I know I can speak to it personally as the profession. I think understanding and appreciating the value of what we can do to really change people's lives and help them get out of pain and to manage their pain. For me personally, it really is about growing to a point where I am serving others in the way that God made me to serve others. That I'm working within my wheelhouse and not trying to be what I'm not, but trying to be who I am, and doing that having the confidence to do that to a greater extent. When I was a young man, I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to get validation, appreciation from other things and other people. And as I matured a little bit, I realized, that's not a path I want to be on.
I think that's what success would look like for everyone.
Yeah. Well, you know who has a
not just
great definition?
field.
Do you know John Wooden? He was the winningest coach in college basketball up until the guy from Connecticut took over. And his definition of, I can't remember the exact definition, but it was basically, doing what you know God wants you to do and do it well.
Yeah, that's it. Um, do you, are there any specific success stories that kind of encapsulates your 40 years of dedication to physical therapy with a patient,
Yeah. So there was a patient. So Ehlers-Danlos is a condition. It's a congenital condition that is characterized by hypermobility of joints, and oftentimes, and it's painful. If you dislocate a joint, if it pops out of the socket, it's stretching tissue and it hurts. There was a woman who could not, and I didn't really know what it was, but I studied with a Norwegian physical therapist, and we studied, okay, hypomobilities. Do we manipulate it? Do we stabilize it? Do we tape it? Do they need surgery? That whole philosophy. And then I got this patient. She says, okay, I have this condition. And 20 years ago, it wasn't really heard of or well documented. And so I treated her like a hypermobility. And the way you treat a hypermobility is you get it strong and stable, and you protect it with watching the activities you engage in. And this woman couldn't raise her arm over her head without subluxing her shoulder. And after working with us and then a personal trainer, after 3 years, she was able to do pull-ups and press 25 pounds. And that was over the course of, it took her years, and some of it was with us.
Yeah.
Our job was to get her to where she could raise her arm over her head without subluxing it and do a certain amount of weight. Then she bought into the idea of the exercise, and it was amazing. And then what happened is, then word spread, and we started getting more of those patients. So it was a success for her. It was a success for our business and personally.
Wow.
Because it confirmed the sense of, yes, if people can manage whatever pain we're in, emotional, spiritual, physical, we can manage that so that it doesn't control our lives. And oftentimes people don't fully appreciate that.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that pretty much wraps it up. I mean, it's been an incredible conversation.
Okay.
I love this, and I think a lot of us forget about how all the background business stuff affects our day-to-day treatments and everything.
It can. You can get so focused on it and I've been lucky to have a good team so that I can still focus on my skills, but I do spend a good amount of time looking at the business. Ironically, it's not dissimilar to physical therapy. People want to know that they're cared about. They want to know they're doing something important and there's going to be an impact, and they're contributing to something greater than themselves.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So before we close, where can listeners learn more about you and Peterson Physical Therapy?
So you can go to our website, Peterson, all E's, PT.com. We have a YouTube page where, I'll do little vignettes to help people with specific injuries or, tension headaches or shoulder pain. And we have so I guess it's our YouTube page and our webpage.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
I appreciate your time.